Today's lesson is all about resumes. I know that we've discussed what resumes are in the past and the utility and function of them, but today we're actually going to go over the parts of a resume that you'll need to fill out when you are applying for a job, or just when you are ready to make that next step in your career, or when you want to pursue a higher education. So this is again a vocational preparation as well as vocational comprehension, getting you ready for the workplace. All right. A resume, as you guys all know, I'm sure very well by now, a resume is a paper electronic document that lists your experiences and qualifications as it relates to getting a job. Okay, so a resume, the sole purpose is for you to be hired at a place of employment. Okay, so a resume includes the following. It includes your job objective, what job you want and why. It includes your educational history, what schools you've gone to, what certifications, degrees, whatever that you have accumulated throughout your experience. Your work history, if applicable. I realize that a lot of us, this is the first time that we are writing a resume, so you probably won't have a work history in the traditional sense, and that's totally fine. Your volunteer extracurricular experiences. This is pretty important if you don't have work history. It just shows that you went out of your way to gain experience, whether through volunteering your time for free or by joining academic or extracurricular clubs and organizations that really help you just develop your interpersonal skills and network. And of course, it lists other qualifications that ultimately make you the ideal candidate for a job. All right, so to your left is an example of a high school student resume. It is very, very broad, right? So you'll notice that like the personal information items are not filled in. This is just a sample of what it looks like. So notice that it has all of those major elements that I touched on in the earlier slide, right? It has the job that you're looking for, your education history, your major achievements, if you were part of volunteer or extracurricular organizations, skills that you might have, as well as it's okay to mention any honors, awards that you've received that are like a testament to your skills and to your capabilities. And so when you're writing a resume, you want to consider these tips. Consider what defines you. What vision do you have for your career over the next year or 3 years or 5 years? What values are your driving goals? What's your purpose? What are you passionate about? What keeps you going? Why do you do what you do? So thinking about your what's and your whys is really important when you're applying for a job, because that's how you distinguish yourself as a candidate and make yourself more competitive, because there's probably a lot of other people applying for that same job. So the first part of a resume that you'll fill out is your personal information. This is going to go at the top of your resume near the letterhead. And so personal information, of course, is just data that is unique to you. And it's so that a potential employer can contact you if they want, to continue with the hiring process, such as asking you to come to an interview or asking clarifying questions about your resume. So for personal information, you'll need to include the following: your full name, your address, your phone number, and your email address. Okay. You don't need to put down like your blood type. You probably don't even need to include your date of birth. Once you get hired, they will ask you for that information. They'll ask for a copy of your driver's license or state license. They'll ask you for your birthday because they'll need to process it for the employment hiring process, the onboarding process. All right, the next part is going to be your work or job objective. It's a short summary, so like 2 to 3 sentences that details what job you are applying for or what position you would ideally like to have. So in order to write this part, the work or job objective, you really need to understand what the job's requirements are, what the job expectations are, and how you, as a potential employee, can contribute to that. So think of your resume adjectives, all right? So when Miss Morris was applying to become a teacher, right, I put down that I am passionate about special education. It's really important to me to be an advocate for my students and to make sure that I facilitate active participation of all team members during the IEP process, as well as making sure that I'm implementing the most appropriate and meaningful interventions, supports, accommodations to help my students succeed. Okay. And so I wanted to be a special education teacher. That's the job I wanted. I put down why I'm passionate about special ed, and then how I can contribute to that. I want to be a team player. I want to implement interventions. I want to make sure that I am like in the trenches, doing all the things that need to be done to help students learn. And that's how I got my job. So educational history. Your educational history section is where you will list what schools you have attended or what degrees or certifications you have earned during your time there. You will also list the month and year that you graduated from the institutions. So for many of you just starting out, you're probably just going to write down your high school. So for my students, you would put Rancho Verde High School, Moreno Valley, California. You might include your GPA or your grade point average that you earned, especially if it's high, as well as any coursework you completed. So my students would write down that they completed 4 years of functional academics and functional vocational preparation, functional communication training, and that will basically be a majority of what you put in that section of your resume. Just because for a lot of you who are watching this video, it's because you're just starting out, right? You don't really have much educational experience outside of like primary school and then of course high school. So maybe you're making this resume so that you can apply to different job areas, or just to kind of prep yourself for once you're in college, and adding on to it and modifying your resume as you move on through life. Skills and qualifications. This is your chance to humble brag about yourself. What are you really good at doing that can translate to a work setting? Do you have experiences working in a vocational program at your school? So some kids do ROP. Some kids, like if you're in Miss Morris's program, you actually work in a structured employment setting. It's typically simulated on classroom or in classroom, but some of you will get to go to job sites. And I would definitely include that information because it is super relevant to, likely super relevant to the job that you're applying for. Okay, so if you're really good at using technology or different applications, you can list that here. This person put down that they're proficient in Photoshop and Adobe Creative Suite, which is it's just tools that people in the arts typically use, which is great. If you have knowledge of certain computer programs, like you're really good at Excel, or you're really good at PowerPoint, include that, right? It definitely can only serve to help you. If you speak another language, definitely add that to this section, okay? If you're bilingual, if you speak English, Spanish, and French, or just English and Spanish, that's a huge, huge resume booster because, especially in California, right? So many jobs are looking for people who are bilingual because you're dealing with a pretty diverse population in your job, whether it's entry level or, you're a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer. Being bilingual and knowing multiple language really strengthens you as a candidate. And so all of that will go into this area, okay? If you have hobbies that you really excel in, this person is a great photographer, you can add that. If you're really good at YouTube and you love making YouTube videos, there's a way to phrase that to where it can qualify as a skill that might help you in your future job, which is great. So this is just a last look at a functional resume. Again, it has name and contact or personal information, your job objective summary. They changed the format of this a little bit, but this would be like skills and qualifications. This would be relevant work experience or professional experience, including volunteer experience or experience with extracurricular organizations, and then their educational history, okay, where they went to school, what degrees or certifications that they earned, and just overall how it will make them stronger as a potential job candidate.